Hope flickered across his face. Then we figure it out, together. No rushed decisions, no public declarations. Just us, seeing if what I think we both felt was real. The proposition was tempting, more tempting than she wanted to admit. I need 1 more week, she said finally, to finish setting up my department without distractions, then we'll talk. He nodded, respecting her boundaries. 1 week. That week passed in a blur of strategic planning and team building. Nisha found herself thriving in her new role, earning the respect of her team through merit rather than association with Vikram. For his part, he kept his distance professionally, their interactions limited to necessary meetings. On Friday evening, as she prepared to leave, a text message arrived. Dinner tonight? Nothing fancy. Just talking. She stared at her phone, the culmination of her week's reflection finally crystallizing into clarity. With steady fingers, she replied, My apartment. PM, I'll cook. When Vikram arrived, he brought neither flowers nor expensive gifts, just a bottle of wine and the same openness he'd shown in his office a week earlier. No business talk, she said, taking his coat. No company discussion. Just us. Agreed. He followed her to the kitchen where she was preparing a simple pasta dish. Can I help? She handed him vegetables to chop, the domesticity of the moment striking both of them. This feels strange, she admitted, after 3 years of professional boundaries. Good strange or bad strange? He asked, carefully dicing tomatoes. Just different. She stirred the sauce thoughtfully. I realized something this week working independently in my new role. What's that? I don't need Horizon to succeed, she said simply. My team respects me. I had 3 job offers this week alone. Whatever happens between us won't define my career. Relief crossed his features. That's exactly what I wanted for you, independence, recognition of your talents. I know. She met his gaze steadily. And that's why I think we could try. His hands stilled. Try? Us. For real this time. She took a deep breath. No rushed decisions. No public declarations. But no more pretending either. The smile that spread across his face was unlike any she'd seen before. Unguarded, genuine joy. There would be conditions, she added seriously. Complete professional separation. No special treatment. If it doesn't work, we both commit to maintaining respect and distance. I agree to all conditions, he said immediately. You haven't heard them all yet. I trust your judgment. The simple declaration carried weight beyond the moment. I always have. Over dinner they really talked about everything except work. His childhood in a family with impossibly high expectations. Her dreams of eventually starting a foundation for girls in technology. The genuine connection that had started forming long before their pretend relationship. In late nights solving problems and early mornings planning strategies. I think I started falling for you 2 years ago, he admitted. When you challenged my entire product strategy in front of the development team, she laughed. You were furious. I was impressed, he corrected. No one ever stood up to me like that. Later, as they stood at her door, the evening concluding, Vikram hesitated. So what happens now? Now we date, she said simply. Like normal people. Dinner, movies, learning about each other outside of crisis management and investor meetings. I'd like that. He reached for her hand, fingers intertwining with hers. Though I should warn you, I'm still not good at work-life balance. We'll work on that, she promised, squeezing his hand. Together. 6 months later, Horizon Technologies announced a successful European expansion under Nisha's leadership. The press release included a small footnote that CEO Vikram Kapoor and director Nisha Patel were indeed in a relationship. A real one this time. They kept their promise about professionalism, but colleagues noted how they both seemed to have found something neither had been looking for. Vikram had found someone who challenged him to live beyond his company, and Nisha had found someone who valued her mind as much as her heart. Their pretend arrangement had ended, but something far more genuine had taken its place. A partnership built on respect, truth, and the courage to risk vulnerability after the masks had finally come off. One dance before business talk? He suggested with a knowing smile. Vikram led her to the floor, his hand warm against hers. As they began moving to the music, she realized he was surprisingly graceful. You never mentioned you could dance, she said quietly. Many things you don't know about me. Miss Patel. His voice had dropped lower, sending another inexplicable tremor through her. The familiar formality comforted her, a reminder of their real relationship. Yet as his arm tightened slightly around her waist, the line between pretense and reality blurred. "They're watching us," he whispered. "I know." She could feel Mr. Lim's evaluating gaze. "We should make it convincing." Before she could respond, he twirled her gently, then pulled her closer than before. Their bodies moved in surprising harmony, as if they'd danced together 100 times before. "You're good at this," she said, fighting the breathlessness in her voice. The act? His dark eyes held hers. The dancing? A genuine smile touched his lips. "My mother insisted on lessons. Said no son of hers would step on a woman's toes at important functions." The glimpse into his childhood, something he rarely shared, felt more intimate than their physical proximity. As the music ended, Vikram's hand lingered at her waist. For one disorienting moment, Nisha found herself wishing the song had lasted longer. "I believe Mr. Lim is satisfied with our performance," Vikram said quietly. "Shall we seal the deal?" The reminder of why they were really there, business, not pleasure, helped Nisha regain her equilibrium. "Let's," she agreed, stepping back from the dangerous warmth of his embrace. Later that night, as Vikram's driver took them home, the investors' promises of support secured, Nisha stared out the window to avoid the confusion reflected in Vikram's eyes. "You were remarkable tonight," he said finally, breaking the silence. "Just doing my job," she replied, the words tasting false even as she said them. Neither mentioned how his hand still covered hers on the seat between them. Blurring lines Monday morning arrived with uncomfortable clarity. Nisha stood in the elevator of Horizon Technologies headquarters, straightening her blazer and mentally rehearsing how to act normally after a weekend of overthinking every moment of the gala. The doors opened to the executive floor and she stepped into the familiar rhythm of the workday, coffee in hand. "Morning, Nisha." Deepak from accounting called out. "Saw you in the business section." She nearly spilled her coffee. "What?" He held up his phone, displaying a society page photo of her and Vikram at the gala, his arm around her waist, both of them laughing at something off camera. The caption read, "Tech Titan Vikram Kapoor with girlfriend Nisha Patel at Lim Foundation charity auction. I didn't realize you two were, you know." Deepak wiggled his eyebrows suggestively. "It's not," she began, then remembered their cover story. "We prefer to keep our personal lives private." She hurried to her desk, already feeling the weight of curious glances. Her computer pinged with a dozen new meeting requests and emails marked urgent. At the top sat a message from Arjun. "Singapore investors on board. Full funding approved. Whatever you two did, it worked." A small blue box sat on her keyboard with a handwritten note. "Thank you for Saturday." Inside she found a delicate gold bracelet with a small sunflower charm. Her favorite flower, the detail he'd insisted on remembering. It was an appropriate thank you gift from a boss to an employee who'd gone above and beyond, she told herself. Nothing more. Vikram's office door opened and he emerged in conversation with the board chairman. "The restructuring proposal makes sense," the older man was saying. "Nisha's wasted as an executive assistant. The new division needs leadership with her instincts." Vikram nodded, glancing her way. Their eyes met briefly before he looked away. "Set up the paperwork then. We'll announce next week." The chairman departed with a knowing smile at Nisha. "Excellent work at the gala, my dear. You've made quite the impression on our investors." When they were alone, Vikram approached her desk, maintaining a careful professional distance. "We need to talk about the next steps." "Next steps?" Her stomach tightened. "The investors want us both at their Singapore office next month. 3 days of meetings plus a dinner at the CEO's home." His expression remained unreadable. "I understand if you want to reconsider our arrangement. I thought this was a one-time thing." "So did I," he admitted. "But they're invested now in us, not just the company." He lowered his voice. "The funding is conditional on leadership stability. They specifically mentioned you in their terms." "Me?" Nisha whispered incredulously. "Apparently, I'm a more trustworthy investment when not perceived as a workaholic loner." A hint of his dry humor surfaced. "Your influence," they noted. Nisha's mind raced. "This is getting complicated." "I know." His professional mask slipped, revealing genuine concern. "I never intended to entangle you in this. If you want out, I'll find another solution. The vulnerability in his expression made her hesitate. Horizon was her company too. She'd poured years into its growth. And if she was honest, the prospect of more evenings like Saturday wasn't entirely unwelcome. 3 days in Singapore, she said finally. But we need clearer boundaries. And this new division you're creating, is that real or part of the act? Completely real, he assured her. The board approved it last month. I've been waiting for the right time to discuss your promotion. Her eyes widened. Promotion? Director of Client Relations. The position reports directly to the board, not to me. He met her gaze directly. You've earned it, Nisha, regardless of other circumstances. The sincerity in his voice convinced her. I'll need the job description and responsibilities in writing. Already on your email. A small smile touched his lips. I anticipated you'd be thorough. Over the following weeks, their pretense evolved with unsettling ease. Lunch meetings acquired a personal tone when investors might be watching. Vikram began including her in executive decisions beyond her role's scope, valuing her perspective in ways he'd never openly acknowledged before. For the office retreat at a beachside resort, they navigated shared accommodations with awkward professionalism, Vikram insisting on taking the sofa while she claimed the bedroom. Yet over dinner with clients, his hand found hers beneath the table, fingers interlacing with practiced familiarity. When had the performance become so natural? Nisha wondered, watching him across a conference table as he presented their expansion plans. The Vikram she'd known for 3 years was emerging from his reserved shell, revealing layers of the man behind the entrepreneur. He's different with you, Leela from HR commented one evening as they prepared for another investor event. More human. It's just for appearances, Nisha insisted, though the words felt hollow. Really? Leela raised an eyebrow. Because he turned down a meeting with Microsoft to attend your cousin's wedding. Nisha froze. She'd mentioned the wedding in passing, never expecting Vikram to actually accompany her. Yet he'd arrived in a kurta she'd helped him select, charmed her family effortlessly, and danced with her grandmother until the elderly woman declared him suitable husband material. That night, driving home, he'd asked about her childhood, her dreams before Horizon. She found herself sharing stories she'd never told colleagues, about the scholarship that changed her life, the father who'd taught her mathematics through cooking recipes, the business she'd imagined starting someday. You should do it, he'd said seriously. Horizon could back you as a startup incubator project. Are you offering because I'm your fake girlfriend? She'd asked, only half joking. His expression had turned serious. I'm offering because it's a good idea. You're brilliant, Nisha, I've always known that. Now, preparing for their Singapore trip, Nisha stood in her apartment surrounded by carefully selected outfits, wondering when the line between performance and reality had begun to blur. Her phone buzzed with a text from Vikram. Car arriving in 20. Bringing coffee, almond milk latte, 1 sugar? He'd remembered her coffee preference after she'd mentioned it once. These small attentions, were they for show or something else? The intercom buzzed. He was early. When she opened the door, Vikram stood holding coffee cups, looking uncharacteristically hesitant. Before we go, he said quietly, I wanted to ask, is this still okay? Us, I mean. The genuine concern in his eyes made something shift inside her. In that moment, Nisha realized the most dangerous line had already been crossed. She was falling for her boss, and their carefully constructed pretense was beginning to feel more honest than their professional relationship ever had. It's fine, she lied, accepting the coffee. Just playing the part, right? His expression flickered with something she couldn't quite name. Right, he agreed. Just playing our parts. Neither of them acknowledged the growing uncertainty in their rehearsed performance, or the increasingly real feelings beneath it. The breaking point. The Singapore skyline glittered against the night as Nisha stood on the hotel balcony, the humid air clinging to her skin. 3 days of meetings had culminated in a successful funding agreement, 20 million secured with potential for another 15 if quarterly targets were met. She should have felt triumphant. Instead, confusion clouded her thoughts. The proposition Nisha Patel checked her watch and sighed. It was nearly midnight, and the lights in Horizon Technologies still blazed from the executive floor. 3 years as Vikram Kapoor's executive assistant had taught her that I'll be done in 5 minutes often meant another hour of work. She gathered the quarterly report she'd finished organizing and headed to his office. "I brought you some tea," she said, placing a steaming cup on his desk. The security team asked when they can lock up. Vikram looked up from his laptop, dark circles under his eyes. At 34, he'd built Horizon Technologies from a small software development firm into Mumbai's most promising tech unicorn. His angular features softened momentarily. "You should have gone home hours ago, Nisha, and missed the excitement of watching you rewrite the entire investor presentation," she smiled. "Someone needs to make sure you actually sleep before tomorrow's meeting." Their easy banter was the product of 3 years working side by side. Nisha had joined Horizon fresh from her MBA, expecting a stepping stone position. Instead, she'd found herself the right hand to one of India's most brilliant tech innovators, demanding and perfectionistic, but fair and genuinely passionate about their work. "The Singapore investors are getting cold feet," Vikram said, rubbing his temples. Arjun called from their office. "They're concerned about leadership stability," Nisha frowned. "The projections are solid. The product development is ahead of schedule. Apparently they've been burned by brilliant but volatile founders before." His voice carried a rare edge of frustration. "They specifically mentioned my lack of personal foundation as a concern. What does that even mean?" "It means they think I'm a workaholic with no life outside this company, who might burn out or be too unpredictable." He laughed without humor. "They're not entirely wrong." Nisha sat down across from him. "That's ridiculous. Your commitment is why we're succeeding. They've invited me to some charity gala they're hosting next weekend. Arjun thinks if I show up with a significant other and play the part of a balanced, socially adjusted human, it might ease their concerns. Can't you just explain that your personal life has no bearing on your business acumen?" "In theory, yes. In practice, these old-school investors put stock in appearances. 20 million in funding is hanging in the balance, Nisha. The board is pressuring me to do whatever it takes." She nodded sympathetically. Vikram had always been intensely private. The business media had labeled him the ghost entrepreneur for his avoidance of publicity and social events. What about Priya from marketing? "She's professional and I need someone who knows the business inside and out. Someone who won't panic if the investors start asking technical questions." He looked at her directly. "I need you, Nisha." She blinked. "Me? It's one evening. We attend, make small talk, convince them I'm not a robot, and secure our funding." He hesitated. "I wouldn't ask if it weren't important." Nisha's mind raced. "This crosses all sorts of professional boundaries." "It's strictly business," Vikram assured her. "We're playing parts to secure our company's future. No different than any other presentation." "Our company?" She repeated, a rare smile crossed his face. "Isn't it? You've put as much into Horizon as anyone." That was true. Nisha had canceled dates, missed family functions, and poured countless hours into helping build something meaningful. The thought of losing this funding because of something so trivial was infuriating. "Fine," she said finally. "One night strictly professional. I'll be your date for the gala." "Not my date," he corrected. "My girlfriend. They need to believe we have a stable relationship." Nisha felt a flutter of alarm. "That's a significant escalation from +1. I know it's a lot to ask. The company will cover any expenses, dress, jewelry, whatever you need." She straightened her shoulders. "If we're doing this, we need a backstory. How we met, how long we've been together. It needs to be believable." Vikram looked relieved. "I'll have HR draw up a special contract to cover this." "Unusual situation." "One condition," Nisha added. "This stays between us, Arjun, and whoever else absolutely needs to know. I don't want the office gossip mill churning." "Agreed." He extended his hand formally and she shook it, ignoring the unexpected warmth of his palm against hers. "Now go home, Vikram. Tomorrow we can figure out how to transform you from workaholic CEO to devoted boyfriend." As she gathered her things to leave, Nisha couldn't shake a nagging feeling that she'd just crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. This wasn't in her job description. Pretending to be in love with her boss, even for one night, seemed like a recipe for disaster. Little did she know just how right she was. Playing the part the grand. Oberoi Ballroom sparkled with chandeliers and Mumbai's elite dressed in their finest. Nisha adjusted the unfamiliar weight of diamond earrings against her neck as their car pulled up to the entrance. "Remember," she whispered to Vikram, "we met through mutual friends at a gallery opening, started dating 8 months ago, and you proposed our first real vacation to Goa next month." Vikram nodded. his usual confident demeanor tinged with uncharacteristic nervousness. He wore a perfectly tailored navy suit that transformed him from tech executive to something from a magazine cover. 8 months. Gallery. Goa. He repeated. And your favorite flowers are sunflowers, she supplied. Though I still think that level of detail is excessive. Details sell the story. His hand found the small of her back as they approached the entrance, the gesture surprisingly natural. You look beautiful, by the way. I should have said that earlier. The crimson silk sari had been delivered to her apartment that morning. His assistant's assistant apparently had excellent taste. Nisha had spent hours on her appearance, telling herself it was all for the investor's benefit. Mr. Kapoor, a photographer called out, startling them both. A photo for business today? Before she could process what was happening, Vikram's arm slipped around her waist, drawing her closer. His cologne, something woodsy and expensive, enveloped her senses. Smile, he murmured against her ear, sending an unexpected shiver down her spine. The camera flashed, capturing a moment that looked remarkably genuine. Inside, the charity auction was already underway. Waiters circulated with champagne flutes while Mumbai's wealthiest bid astronomical sums for luxury experiences. Vikram guided her through the crowd with subtle pressure at her back, nodding at acquaintances but maintaining a protective bubble around them. Vikram, a round man with silver hair, approached, accompanied by a younger colleague. We were beginning to think you might not come. Mr. Lim, Mr. Chen. Vikram greeted them with practiced ease. I wouldn't miss it. May I introduce Nisha Patel, my girlfriend? The word sounded strange in his voice, but Nisha smiled warmly, extending her hand. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. Vikram speaks highly of your investment portfolio. Mr. Lim's eyebrows rose slightly. Girlfriend and business analyst? Just girlfriend tonight, she replied smoothly. Though I can't help absorbing details when Vikram talks about work. The older investor studied her carefully. How did you two meet? Vikram is famously private. They delivered their rehearsed story flawlessly, with Vikram occasionally filling in details they hadn't discussed. His hand never leaving contact with her, a touch at her elbow, fingers intertwined, his thumb occasionally tracing circles on her palm. Each casual gesture sent tiny jolts through her system. She dragged me to 3 more exhibitions before I managed to convince her to have dinner, Vikram was saying, his eyes crinkling with amusement. I think she agreed just to stop my persistent calling. That's not true, Nisha countered, the lie coming easily. I was impressed by how much you knew about contemporary art, despite claiming to be just tagging along with a friend. A man of hidden talents, Mr. Chen commented, looking more relaxed than when they'd arrived. You have no idea, Nisha said, surprised by the genuine warmth in her voice. As dinner progressed, Nisha found herself forgetting they were playing roles. Vikram, usually so reserved at work, revealed a dry wit she'd only glimpsed in their late-night working sessions. When he laughed at her subtle joke about venture capitalists and their superstitions, the sound was startlingly genuine. You two make a striking couple, commented Mrs. Lim during dessert. How does it work with you also being his employee? The question hit like cold water. Nisha felt Vikram stiffen beside her. We maintain clear boundaries, she answered carefully. Work is work. Though I'm considering a restructuring, Vikram added smoothly. Nisha's talents are wasted in her current position. She turned to him, genuinely surprised. They hadn't rehearsed this. The auction is beginning, he said, changing the subject. Shall we? They moved to the auction area, where extravagant packages were being sold for charity. When a weekend at a private island resort came up, Vikram unexpectedly entered the bidding war, eventually winning with an amount that made Nisha gasp. What are you doing? She whispered. Being spontaneous and romantic, he murmured back. Isn't that what they expect? Later, as a string quartet played and couples took to the dance floor, Mr. Lim approached them again. Across the connected balcony, Vikram was engaged in a heated phone conversation with the board back in Mumbai. The adjoining hotel suites had raised eyebrows among the investors, but Vikram had insisted on maintaining proper boundaries in private, even as they continued their charade in public. No, absolutely not, she heard him say firmly. Nisha's promotion proceeds as planned. I don't care how it looks. Her qualifications are unquestionable. She stepped back inside, giving him privacy, but his words lingered. The genuine respect in his voice when discussing her career stirred emotions she'd been trying desperately to suppress. When he returned inside, his expression was troubled. "Problem?" she asked. "The board is concerned about the optics of your promotion coinciding with our relationship becoming public." He loosened his tie with frustration. "They're suggesting a delay to avoid appearance of favoritism." Oh. The single syllable contained volumes of complicated feelings. "I told them it's non-negotiable." He met her gaze directly. "You've earned this, Nisha. I won't let our arrangement interfere with your career." The sincerity in his eyes made her heart ache. This was the Vikram few people saw. Principled, loyal, fighting for what he believed was right. "There's more," he continued reluctantly. "A tech blog is running a story tomorrow suggesting our relationship is a publicity stunt to reassure investors." Nisha felt the blood drain from her face. How could they know? They don't, it's speculation. But it's uncomfortably close to the truth. He ran a hand through his hair. "I've asked legal to demand a retraction, but that might make it look more suspicious," she finished. They stood in uncomfortable silence, the weight of their deception suddenly heavier than before. "Perhaps we should end it," she suggested quietly. "The pretense has served its purpose. Funding is secured." Something flickered across his features. Disappointment? Relief? She couldn't tell. "Is that what you want?" he asked carefully. The question hung between them, laden with unspoken complications. Did she want to end their charade? Or had it become something she wished were real? "I think it's best for both of us," she said finally. "For the company. For my new position." He nodded slowly. "You're probably right." The flight home the next day passed in professional silence. By the time they landed in Mumbai, tech websites were blazing with headlines: Horizon Technologies Power, Couple, Real Romance, or Investor Bait. The board called an emergency meeting. Nisha sat beside Vikram as they weathered accusations of manipulation and questions about ethics. Through it all, he remained steadfast in defending both their privacy and her qualifications. "Ms. Patel's promotion stands," he stated firmly. "As for our personal relationship, that remains private, regardless of its status." Afterward, alone in his office, the strain showed on his face. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "This has become exactly what you feared, a complication for your career." "It's not your fault," she assured him. "We both agreed to the arrangement." He hesitated. "About the blog speculation, we should confirm the breakup," she said quickly. "It's the cleanest solution. I start my new position, you focus on the expansion, and the gossip eventually dies down." Something in his expression made her breath catch, a flicker of what might have been regret. But he nodded. "If that's what you think is best." The following weeks were an exercise in careful avoidance. Nisha threw herself into building her new department, while Vikram became increasingly absent, traveling to international offices and investor meetings. When they did interact in executive sessions, both maintained rigid professionalism that left colleagues whispering about trouble in paradise. Then came the industry awards ceremony, where Horizon was receiving recognition for innovation. As department head, Nisha attended alongside other executives. She was discussing strategy with a potential client when she felt a presence behind her. "You look beautiful tonight," Vikram said quietly. She turned, unprepared for the impact of seeing him in formal attire after weeks of distance. "Thank you. Congratulations on the award. It was a team effort." His eyes held hers longer than strictly professional. "Your contribution especially." Before she could respond, a photographer approached. "Mr. Kapoor, Ms. Patel, a photo for the business section?" They posed awkwardly, maintaining careful space between them. The contrast to their earlier photographs was striking. "I miss you," he said suddenly, so quietly she almost didn't hear it. She stared at him, heart pounding. "Vikram, not as my assistant, not as my fake girlfriend." His voice was low, intense. "As you. I miss talking to you, hearing your perspective. I miss us." The vulnerability in his expression took her breath away. "There was never really an us," she reminded him gently. "Wasn't there?" He stepped closer. "Because it didn't feel like pretending to me. Not at the end." A board member approached before she could respond, the moment shattering like glass. For the remainder of the evening, Nisha felt Vikram's gaze following her. Questions in his eyes she wasn't ready to answer. The next morning, she received an email that stopped her heart. An offer from their biggest competitor, mentioning her impressive handling of Horizon's recent growth, and offering a substantial salary increase. Attached was a note from Vikram. This came to me. I'm forwarding it to you unfiltered. You should consider it. The gesture spoke volumes. He was giving her a clean exit, a way to escape the complications their pretense had created. That afternoon, she requested a meeting in his office. Decision made. I'm not taking the offer, she said without preamble. Relief visibly washed over him before he masked it. May I ask why? It's an excellent opportunity. Because I didn't build Horizon to abandon it. She took a deep breath. But I can't continue like this either. The awkwardness, the gossip, the second guessing. It's affecting the company. What do you suggest? Complete honesty? She met his gaze steadily. We tell the board the truth about our arrangement. Take whatever consequences come. Then we can all move forward. His expression turned thoughtful. And us, what truth do we tell about that? The question caught her off guard. I don't understand. I told you I missed you, Nisha. That wasn't a professional statement. His voice remained calm, but intensity burned behind his words. The arrangement may have begun as pretense, but my feelings didn't end when we called it off. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Vikram, we can't. I know the complications. I've analyzed every angle, every consequence. A small smile touched his lips. It's what I do, remember? And I still think you're worth the risk. He stood, moving around his desk until he was standing before her. But only if you feel the same. The moment stretched between them, years of professional respect colliding with months of complicated emotions. I need time, she whispered finally. He nodded. Take all the time you need. Whatever you decide, your position here is secure. I promise you that. As she turned to leave, he called after her softly. Nisha, no more pretending, okay? Whatever comes next, let's make it real. New beginnings. The board meeting room fell silent as Nisha finished speaking. 7 executives stared at her and Vikram, expressions ranging from shock to amusement. Let me understand correctly, the chairman said finally. You two fabricated a relationship to secure the Singapore investment? Yes, Vikram confirmed. It was my suggestion and I take full responsibility. And now? Another board member asked, looking between them. Nisha straightened her shoulders. Now we're being transparent about the deception. We understand there may be consequences. The chairman leaned back, steepling his fingers. And your actual relationship status currently is professional? Nisha answered quickly, avoiding Vikram's gaze. I'm focused on building my department. A week had passed since their confrontation in his office. A week of careful consideration and sleepless nights. She hadn't given Vikram her answer yet. Wasn't sure she had one herself. Well, the chairman sighed. It was unethical, certainly. But the funding is secured with no stipulations about your personal lives at this point. He looked at Vikram sternly. Don't make a habit of such methods, Kapoor. Never again, Vikram promised. The meeting adjourned with surprisingly little drama. As executives filed out, the chairman patted Nisha's shoulder. For what it's worth, he said quietly. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Pretense or not. Alone in the conference room, Vikram approached her cautiously. That went better than expected. Yes, she agreed, gathering her papers. We were lucky, Nisha. His voice softened. Have you thought about what I said? She finally met his gaze. I've thought about little else. And I don't know, Vikram. She sighed. You're still technically my boss. Not directly, he pointed out. You report to the board now. The optics are still complicated. They always will be. He took a careful step closer. But I meant what I said. No more pretending. If you don't feel the same way, I'll respect that completely, and we'll find a way to work together professionally. The sincerity in his voice made her pause. And if I do feel the same way?